Hi, my name's Maria, and this is my channel Tea Books Magic, and today I'm here with my April TBR. I don't usually do monthly TBRs, or honestly TBRs in general. I kind of do a priority reading list for a year or a quarter or a section of time, but I don't really like to make TBRs because I am such a mood reader, so I try to keep it open. But in April there are a lot of readathons going on, and I'm really excited to join in on them, and so it was really fun kind of putting together. It's really more a list of possibilities than a TBR anyway, because it's overambitious. You'll see there's no way I'm going to get to all of these, but it's kind of a list of books that fit in with the different prompts for the readathons and that I'm most excited to get to and that I'm hoping to be picking from in April. April is kind of, for whatever reason, became the month of readathons. There's so many going on. I kind of had to pick and choose which ones I am participating in because I can't do all of them, but I'm really excited for the ones that I am picking. And I'm really focusing on two main readathons in April. There is Realm of the Readathon, or RealmAthon, which was created by the amazing Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. I will link the announcement video down below. This readathon runs for the entire month of April, and you basically get to pledge your magic to one of the 4 realms, and then whatever books you read, they can go toward either increasing your realm's magic or decreasing another realm's magic. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of different prompts for increasing, decreasing. It's a really creative readathon. Cassidy did an incredible job with it. She's come up with graphics and just really cool kind of world building histories of the different realms. So I really recommend checking out the announcement video if you're at all interested, or if you just kind of want to see the amazing creativity that she put into it. I've pledged my magic to Team Vale, which is the fantasy romance realm, and I'll kind of get into that in just a little bit with my picks. The other readathon that I'm participating in for sure in April is the Assassins in April readathon that is hosted by Kristen from Kristen is Fully Booked, another one of my absolute favorite booktube channels, and I'll link this announcement below as well. Assassins in April is a week-long readathon in April, which is from April 16th to April 23rd, so it's a week, but you essentially get 8 days and 2 Saturdays, which is really nice of Kristen to give us. And the entire point of this readathon is that you're essentially focusing on reading assassin books, and you can kind of hit different levels. I forget exactly what the different levels are, but I know you can be like I believe the top one is like Master Assassin, depending on how many hits or books you read. And then in addition to kind of getting points or hits for reading assassin books, there's also different prompts that you can kind of use to get extra points for a specific book that fits within that. Both of these just sounded really fun, and I'm really excited to participate, and these are the kind of books that I've picked out as my pile of possibilities or my options to pick from throughout the month. This TBR is super ambitious. I was in a reading slump a couple months back, and I also in general just don't read that much in a month. I'm typically in the 3 to 4, 4 to 6 if I'm lucky or having a really great reading month kind of range, and I've put way more than that on my list. But like I said, it's more just possibilities to pick from and just books to get excited about, mood read throughout the month. So getting into the books and the actual kind of TBR, there are a few commitments that I've got. I will be continuing on with my Memoirs of Lady Trent reread because I am one of the hosts in the Lady Trent read-along. Again, I'll post the information about that below. We do have a live show coming up on April 6th, Wednesday. It is going to be at 6 p.m. PST. I don't remember the other times, to be honest, so I'll just put those all down below in the information box for you, but hopefully you'll join in. And then the third book live show will be in May, and so I do need to get through those books. So I need to finish rereading The Tropic of Serpents, which is book 2, by the April 6th live show. I am about 10% into this, only a couple chapters in, and Cassidy did say that for RealmAthon she will count any books that you read at least 30% of. I'm aiming more for at least 50% or most of the book, but like I said, I'm only 10% in, so most of this book will be read in the first week of April. And then I will also need to get to the third book, Voyage of the Basilisk, at some point before the May live show. This series is a set of fantasy memoirs following Lady Trent, who is a dragon natural historian and is kind of trying to pave a path for herself in a male-dominated society and career. I'm also a little bit into Royal Assassin currently as I'm filming this. Kristen and I are buddy reading the entire Realm of the Elderlings, and this is book 2 of the Farseer trilogy. I will probably not even be halfway into this one, so I think it will also count toward RealmAthon. And I do believe I get points for the series for it being a goddess fave, or one of Cassidy's favorite books. I'm not going to kind of list off all the different prompt points that I get, partly because I want to keep my strategy a little bit secret, and partly because I'm going to kind of see where I can get the most points as I go. but I will be reading probably about 80% of this in the month of April, so it's gonna count. This is, like I said, book 2 of the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in Robin Hobb's kind of expansive Realm of the Elderlings world, and we follow Fitz, who is a bastard born to the royal family, and that kind of throws a lot of chaos and upheaval into the succession, and Fitz is trained as an assassin in order to kind of keep him close to the royal family, but still a tool that they can use. As the name suggests, these are assassin books, so Kristen and I are planning to also buddy read the 3rd book in the week of the Assassins in April readathon. And this one will earn me extra points or extra hits because it is not only a book featuring an assassin, but it also fits the Call It Like It Is prompt, which has the word assassin in the title. While I'm at it and while I'm kind of focused on the Assassins in April readathon and my plans for that, I don't think I'm going to read more than 2 books in a week. Like I said, I'm just not the fastest reader, so, and Assassin's Quest is pretty chunky. It's about 800 pages. So on top of that, the other book that I'm going to attempt for the Assassins in April readathon is Boy with Fire by Aparna Verma. This is an indie fantasy. I'm fairly certain that it is self-published, and it's one that I've had on my radar for a little while. After I heard Angela from Literature Science Alliance review and kind of rave about it, it has the markings of what I think will be a 5-star read for me. It's supposed to be very political, it's got a slow burn romance, it's Indian-inspired mythology, I believe it kind of has a deserty setting, all kind of buzzwords or things that I look for, so I'm really excited to get to this. I follow the author on Twitter and they've been reposting a lot of fan art and kind of fan videos of the main couple in this recently, so I've been feeling really urged to pick this up because of everything that I've been seeing. It just looks like the vibes that I go for and that I like. But also, on top of that, the amount of focus on the main couple of this book has me thinking that I can probably use this as a fantasy romance, which you may remember is my Realms subgenre, and therefore I get extra points for that. I'll have to read it to see if it actually counts. I'm only going to count it if the romance is heavily present and kind of a really big feature of this book, but just based on kind of the way that people talk about it and the things that people focus on, I have a feeling it might be. We'll see if this one qualifies, but regardless, like I said, this is definitely an assassin book. It's a multi-POV story that follows an assassin who's kind of on the run from his employers and the authorities, and a princess who's getting ready to ascend the throne. Like I said, very political, very intriguing. I'm excited. While we're on the topic of fantasy romance, let's kind of go through the picks that I've pulled out for that subgenre and to get Team Bale some extra points. If you've been following my reading and my channel, it might surprise you a little bit that I went with the fantasy romance subgenre, and that's for several reasons. I had a few books that I felt like kind of overlapped with that were already on my TBR, and also because I've been slumping so much this year, I'm trying to find genres and books that I can kind of use as palette cleansers to get me through bigger, denser adult fantasy. And I feel like fantasy romance might be a really good kind of pick for that, so I wanted to dip my toes into it, and it felt like a perfect time. Boy with Fire is a little bit questionable. I don't know if that one will work, but I do also have Reign and Ruin by J.D. Evans on my TBR, and this is one that I'm the most excited to get to of all my fantasy romance picks, so I think it's going to be maybe even the book that I start the month off with. I'm really excited about this one. I haven't heard too many people talk about this one, but I did see a review on Goodreads from Beautifully Bookish Bethany that essentially said that if you are a big fantasy reader and you want a little bit of fantasy romance, this is like the perfect pick. It's supposedly very kind of still political, great plot, great world building, but also has a really wonderful kind of romance and a great couple dynamic, as well as kind of fully fleshed out characters, just slow burn. I'm just, everything that she's kind of saying about it really has me excited and thinking that this is one I'm gonna love. I honestly don't know much about the plot because that review sold me and I didn't look much past that. And the other thing that I noticed in Bethany's review is that she used the word military quite a few times, and she even said that the author served as a military officer and spent time in Beirut. So all of this has me thinking that this will also qualify as a military fantasy, which, if you are familiar with the RealmAthon rules and points, is one of the ways that you can get extra bonus points for your realm. So I think that this one will get me points in that, plus subgenre points for fantasy romance, and it just sounds like a great time and a great read, so I'm really excited for that one. I also have The Bridge Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen on my list as another fantasy romance pick that I'm hoping to get to. This is one that I've heard also is said to be very political and have a good blend of both political plot and fantasy romance, and so again, it just seems like kind of what I'm looking for, where it might be a kind of good halfway point for someone who loves fantasy and political plots, but also is trying to dip their toes into fantasy romance. According to Cassidy, Bridge Kingdom will qualify as a military fantasy, and also the main character was kind of trained to be a sort of assassin or spy and infiltrate a different kingdom, so I have also been told by Kristen that she will accept it as an assassin book. So if I have time in my week-long Assassins TBR to fit this one in, then I will, but like I said, usually 2 books is a stretch for me, so it might just be something I get to at some point in April. Other potential kind of fantasy romance picks, I have Gilded by Marissa Meyer. I've loved almost every Marissa Meyer book that I've read. She's just kind of an author that I just really fly through, and I really love her characters, so this is one I'm excited to get to. I don't think it's gonna happen in April, but it's one that I have kind of as a backup quick read if I need it. I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess as a possibility, but I don't think I'm gonna get that hold from the library in time, so that one's kind of a less likely possibility, but I have been hearing really great reviews about it recently. And the last book in my fantasy romance category of this TBR is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This one, I really want to get to this one. It was supposed to be a priority for January and I didn't get to it, so I'm really hoping that I can fit it into April. April's gonna be a full month though, so it might be pushed to May, but this is one that in general, just regardless of any readathons, is top of my list to get to soon. And I am counting this as fantasy romance. I know that technically there's a plot other than the romance, but I feel like when people talk about this book, again, they talk about the romance in it and the romantic storyline, and I've seen it on a few fantasy romance recommendation lists, so I'm counting it as fantasy romance. Essentially with me, since I'm such a fantasy reader, if the romance is a really heavy part of the book and the plot, I think that for me qualifies as fantasy romance. It doesn't necessarily have to be something smutty. Other books that I'm trying to get to on this overly ambitious TBR that is never gonna actually happen, but is very fun to plan. I'm hoping to buddy read A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lynn with Taylor from Made Between the Pages, and this is one that I've had on my radar since the press release. I read the press release and it mentioned tea magic and I was sold. That's all I needed to hear. That's pretty much all I know. Tea magic competitions. I'm really excited about this book. And it did just come out on the 29th of March, so hopefully we'll get to it some point in April. I'm not exactly sure of our plans yet, but it's on the near future priority list. There's also the Black Hawks by David Ragg. This is the Patreon buddy read pick for Cassidy's Patreon, and pretty much all I know about this is it follows a group of mercenaries. Jade from JD Ray Reads absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars, and said that it's suited for people who loved Sebastian de Castell's writing. Sebastian de Castell wrote my absolute favorite series of all time, the Greatcoat series, so hopefully this will also be up my alley. I'm not 100% sure kind of what to expect from it, but I'm excited. And I also have Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. This is technically a book that I picked up in 2021, and I got about like a tiny bit past halfway in this, and then I put it down because I was already kind of starting to slump. And with this book, the first portion is really amazing, really caught my interest, but the middle was a slog. So I kind of got cut in that middle slog, put it down, soft DNF'd it, always meant to come back to it. I am a little bit past halfway in it, but again, Cassidy did say that if we read 30% of a chunky book, it can still count. And to be honest, I've still got at least halfway to go with this, and I'm gonna be rereading a lot because it's been a few months. I don't remember much, so I think there's gonna be a good amount of going back. This is a military fantasy. It's also a Cassidy favorite, and I need to finish it because I have been excited and I do want to get back to the characters and world and find out kind of what happens, and I've been told that I'm right at the part where it kicks off, so it's about time that I picked it back up. And then, as if this TBR possibilities wasn't ambitious enough, I have a few other books that I've soft DNF'd and when I was kind of slumping and then I really need to and want to pick back up. The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, The Liar's Knot, which is the sequel to The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and was a book that I'd actually pre-ordered and was really excited about, so the slump just really got in the way of that. And then also I just recently pre-ordered and then received The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I've been so excited for this new release. It basically is kind of like traveling magistrates a la Greatcoats vibes and style, and also is written by an author who's also a lawyer. If you know anything about my reading tastes, you might know that I absolutely love justice themes, law themes. In another world, I would be a lawyer myself if it didn't require extra schooling and just a ridiculous amount of stress from the high pressure of the job, but I love everything to do with law and kind of morality discussions and themes like that, so this is a 5-star prediction. I'm really excited to get to this. I don't know if I'll fit it into April, but I really, really hope I can. And then last but not least, I do also have Malice by John Gwynne on my radar. Again, there's no way I'm gonna get to all of these, but hopefully I'll get to them in the next few months, so I guess you can also treat it as like a in the next few months TBR. Books I'm really excited about. Malice is a book that Cassidy has been raving about, so again, goddess favorite, and then also military fantasy. It's by John Gwynne. I really enjoyed Shadow of the Gods by him, so just another book that I really, really want to prioritize soon. And that is my very ambitious, in no way possible April TBR. Basically, I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to pick and choose from these books as my mood kind of decides, and I'm excited to participate in all the readathons. I might try and semi-participate in Tome Topple, which is hosted by Thoughts on Tomes, just because I'm reading Assassin's Quest right around the time that kind of readathon falls, and that is considered a tome over 500 pages. There's even more readathons going on in April, the Magical Readathon for one, but I had to kind of rein myself in and stick to the main two that I really wanted to do. Let me know if you're participating in Assassins in April, RealmAthon, any other readathons in April. Do you also have really ambitious plans? If you're participating in RealmAthon, what realm are you? I'd love to hear. Or if you're not participating in any readathons, just let me know what books you're excited to get to in April and chat to me in the comments down below. All of the information and readathon announcements, schedules, things like that, as well as the details for our Lady Trent live show will be in the description down below. This technically didn't come up because it's not on my April TBR. I am finishing it in March, but I am currently finishing off Way of Kings, which is book 1 in the Stormlight Archive, and I am participating in the Stormlight Archive read-along, and we are having our first live show for the first book, Way of Kings, on April 16th, which is a Saturday. I believe it's 8 a.m. Central European time. I will make sure and put that in the description down below as well so that you can hopefully join in. If you'd like to hear us chat about Way of Kings, doesn't really have anything to do with my April TBR, but I just wanted to throw that information in there as well. That's it from me for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of the day and a great reading month in April.